In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. I want to talk about chapter 5 today. It is my third presentation and I want to talk about chapter 5. Why? Because chapter 3 and 4 are already discussed in phonetics, so we don't need chapter 4. We already talked about chapter 1 and 2. Now I want to talk about chapter 5. And I put the chapter 3 and 4 for your phonetic courses, and we work there, okay? So chapter 5. In this chapter, we want to talk about word formation in English. Word formation in English, and of course we go have a look at other languages as well. Well, to begin with, I have to have a good idea. I have to give you a good idea about what we mean by word formation, and after that we continue with this process of word formation. Well, so this chapter actually begins on page 58, word formation, and on the next page, 59, it talks about neologism, how new words are in fact made. After that, the book talks about etymology, the roots of words. Words are actually have got different parts, roots in them, and where they come from. The study of these types of things are etymology, as we will see shortly now. The next page, page 60 maybe, yes, talks about, from this page on, we talk about different processes from which languages actually make new words. One way is borrowing from other languages, as you can see on page 60. Okay, and a special kind of, in fact, borrowing is loan translation. Okay, it's a special kind of borrowing. Another kind is when we put two words together, two nouns, for example, etc., together to make a bigger word like whiteboard. I'm going to talk about compounding later on. So the second process is called compounding, and it includes blending as well, which is a special kind of, let's say, making compounds short, as we will see later on. In fact, we make a compound and they make it shorter, as we will see, or will shortly see. The next one is the process of clipping. We have got a very big word, we cut it into two parts. For example, the word examination, we cut it short and we make it exam. Okay, this is called clipping, and it includes a special type of clipping which is called hypocorism, and the discussion of back formation. So let's go to the next page, and page 63, which is conversion. Conversion is when we have got a noun, we simply use it as a verb, or we have got a verb, we simply use it as a noun. So we convert from one meaning to the other. We change from one meaning to the other. Well, and the next one is coinage. Coinage means, in fact, we make it. We just make it in a different ways. We make it and we invent it or make it by ourselves. Okay, we are going to talk about that just now. And the next one is derivation. Derivation is adding prefixes or suffixes to the words. For example, we have got the word nation. Okay, we add al to it. We call it national. So what did we do? We add a noun. We made something like an adjective out of that. So when we talk about derivation, we are going to talk about prefixes and suffixes, okay, and infixes in other languages. And the last one, but not the least, is multiple processes. Multiple processes simply mean that we have got 2 or 3 things at the same time. Well, let us back to the beginning and say how languages are formed. Well, the first idea is neologism, how new words are added to languages. What do we do? Suppose that there's a kind of invention that you have. Okay, you have got an invention and you want to make a noun for that. How to use it? The idea is that they wanted to make somebody actually made something like a vacuum cleaner for the first time. He made something like a vacuum cleaner, but he didn't know what to call it. Okay, this is the story of how to call it. Okay, so he decided with the original name at that time in 1900, around 1900, was electric suction sweeper. Line 2, electric suction sweeper. Okay, well, so he wanted to, the name of this guy was Spangler. Okay, so suppose that everybody calls this kind of machine not electric suction sweeper. It's so long. Let's call it Spangler. Okay? Spangler. Why? Because this is the name of the person that made it. Okay? So something like a vacuum cleaner is called, suppose, Spangler. Of course, the whole story is sort of, in fact, hypothetical. Okay? So suppose that you are, in fact, you are going to sweep the, in fact, the carpet. Okay, using this kind of electric suction sweeper. So what do you say? You say, I am spanglering the, in fact, floor. I am spanglering the carpet. Okay, so you make a noun. You make a noun at first. Then you make a verb out of it. You add ing to it. Suppose you go and buy 2, in fact, Spanglers. You add an S to the end. Okay? This is the story of how words are actually made. But of course, this kind of, in fact, invention later was sold to somebody else called Hoover. Actually, you can see it out here. Okay? Hoover. Okay? So what happened to this story here? Well, actually, this is a real story that we have a brand name Hoover for the vacuum cleaner. Okay? Why? Because this Mr. Spangler sold it to another person who called it Hoover. Okay? Who called it Hoover. Now in British English, especially when they want to clean the carpet, when they want to, in fact, sweep the carpet, they sometimes, especially older people, call it as Hoover. Okay? So they are hoovering the carpet. What does it mean? It means that they are vacuuming the carpet. They are vacuum cleaning the carpet. Vacuuming or vacuum cleaning. This is the story of how words are made. How? So somebody may call it some invention as, let's say, Spangler. Somebody else sells it. And this guy sells it to somebody else called Hoover. And Hoover actually puts his name on it as a brand name. So a new word is formed. This is what we call as neologism, as you can see now. Okay, well, so it was a sort of, in fact, hypothetical, partly hypothetical, in fact, suggestions for how words are formed. In chapter 5 we are going to talk about something like this, but actually let us begin with the other part, which includes etymology. What is etymology? Etymology comes from the word etymon. etymon means the original form or the root, okay, etymon of etymology. And logia means the study, from which we have the word logy, biology, I don't know, phonology, etc., etc. Okay, so logy is something that we add to fields of study like etymology, like morphology. We are going to talk about morphology in the next chapter, and phonology, etc., etc., or other ones. So, etymology actually talks about uh, how actually one word comes from another language, which is the in fact the prefix, which is the suffix, etc., etc., and which is the root, the most important part, as you can see here. Okay, so for example, let's go to the next one. Borrowing simply means that we go and take one word from another language and we use it in our own language. My language is Farsi. I take words from English. Your language is Arabic. You take, for example, words from French, from Farsi, from, let's say, English, etc., and you use it. Okay? So the word, for example, telfaz or television actually comes to be used from, let's say, telfaz or television from French into English vocabulary, into Arabic vocabulary. Okay, this is called something like telfaz or television is called as, let's say, borrowing. Well, the best example of borrowing is in fact English. Why? Because this language borrows so many words from so many different languages. Well, let us see. In this part, you actually see that, there's a list of words from different languages into the vocabulary of English. The first one is dope, Dutch. The second one from French, jewel. The third one from Yiddish. The fourth one from Persian. And look at this. The word sofa comes from Arabic. Arabic. So as you see that, and yogurt from Turkish. Okay, so you see that in English we actually borrow words from so many different languages, including Arabic. Okay, so this is something like this. Well, and this happens in all other languages, as the examples below suggests that you are going to study. Okay, there are good words here for you to look at. And the second, a special type of borrowing is loan translation. Loan translation. What do? You you take from other languages and put one word after another, okay, and translate that word into, let's say, uh, your own language. So this is called as loan translation. For example, sometimes called calque, as you see, loan translation or calque. Okay, now let us see what are the examples of, in fact, loan translation. Well, actually, if you go to line, let's see. Well, a skyscraper. I'm looking for a skyscraper. Well, a skyscraper. Okay. Well, yes. Mm-hmm. Well, let's read from this line in order to find the word skyscraper here. Well, in this process, there is a direct translation of the element of a word into the borrowing language. So, interesting examples are the French term gratte-ciel, which literally translates as a scrape sky, and the Dutch, this kind of word from Dutch, which means cloud scratcher, and the German word this kind. Okay, all of these means a skyscraper. What is a skyscraper? A very, very tall building of, let's say, 100 stories. Okay, 100 stories. Okay, a very, very tall building with 100 stories, one after another. Okay, it's called the skyscraper, and the skyscraper from English went to other languages. I don't know the Arabic word for it, so if you know, actually, just in fact let me know the examples from your own language. So if you actually know this word in Arabic and you know that it's a kind of loan translation, just come to my, in fact, to our group and say that this word is actually in Arabic, again, is a loan translation. In Farsi, it is something like this, that we call these very tall buildings as Aseman Kharash. Aseman means, Aseman in Farsi means sky, and Kharash means scratch. Okay? Well, the very tall building is called a kind of thing that scratches the sky. Okay, so Asaman Kharash in Farsi, and the sky. In these languages we have translations, loan translations from another language, English. Okay. Well, there are other examples from other languages that we don't know. You have to, in fact, provide good examples in your own, and, in fact, provide us with these. Okay, so it is loan translation, as you can see. Well, I'm going to conclude the session. Why? Because I suppose it's going to be long and it's impossible for me to send it to you. Thank you very much.